Hey everybody, it's Buffy again here with Edge Yoga School. I'm completing my 300-hour teacher training program, and as a part of that we are bringing content to the table to share with each other and learn together. So this is just a really nice way that I can bring content and information to you that I'm learning during my children's nap time. So this is called the Nap Time series, and we've already gone through quite a bit here with there's so many videos, so if you've missed some of the previous ones, please check them out. We've gone through the chakras quite a bit, pretty extensively, using the Wheels of Life book. We've talked about hosting yoga retreats, stand-up paddleboard yoga, kids yoga events, forest yoga. We've talked about vision board workshops, art therapy workshops, and I still have more to share with you. I've also presented a few classes, and I'll have some more of those coming kind of sprinkled in. But now we're going to dive into the Yamas and Niyamas. And I am coming to you from this beautiful space outside on my back porch. Wanted to do an outdoor video today. So yeah, I read this book. So this is by Deborah Adele, the Yamas and Niyamas. You can find it on Amazon or anywhere you buy books, really. And it's such an easy read. It is something you can kind of keep on your bedside and read over and over again. And I definitely needed to reread this, so thank you for the accountability. And this, I love this program, the way Michelle has it set up with Edge Yoga School, because you really are forced to process the information and then present it back and teach it back. And in that way, you really are having to digest things, maybe even more than you would normally for just like your own reading. At least for me, because I feel like a responsibility to bring, you know, some sort of cohesive thoughts and takeaways from what I'm learning to you all. So I hope these are helpful for you as they are for me. I'm learning right alongside with you. Definitely have not arrived anywhere or have any kind of authority on this subject. Certainly still learning. So the Yamas and Niyamas, we're going to dive right in, are, well, in her subtitle, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice. So we've got 8 limbs of yoga, and these are the first 2. They're really the base and foundation, not that they necessarily build one upon the other, but they're pretty important because they're the first one's mentioned. And the third one is actually asana, which is what most Westerners see as yoga, which is the physical practice. There's a lot more to yoga than just practicing yoga on your mat. Drinking my Cuban coffee. Happy Monday. Just on a personal note, we're in the middle of a move. We're building our first home, and we've got 4 kids. I homeschool, and I host yoga retreats and teach classes, and my husband works full time. So busy times over here, and I'm trying to keep balance a lot of what we're going to talk about today, and self-care at the forefront. So thank you for allowing me to bring this to you and for that to be part of it. But yeah, I don't know what brought that up. So we're going to jump into the first chapter here, and I'll probably do like one of the yamas or niyamas each video. So there are 5 yamas. In the first chapter, she kind of like gives a brief overview of what we're talking about, like what is this? And even before that, let's jump into the preface. What matters is how well you have participated in your own life, both the ordinary routines and the extraordinary surprises. And she is just sharing what prompted her to write this book. She talks about a lady from a movie, a character who was stuck in her perceived realities of life, and I highlighted that, stuck in your perceived realities of life. And what the Yamas and Niyamas do for me, they're just basically some basic moral guidelines that really help you to sometimes like get outside of yourself, and they also kind of guide you and help you to stay on a good path, if you will. They're not like affiliated with any certain religion. They're just kind of yoga's ethical guidelines, which I think are pretty universal. They've done some studies. I know I studied this in my master's program. They've done studies on like universal moral guidelines and truths, if you will. And it's interesting because across the board, most cultures and even religions will teach like very similar concepts as far as morality and like what a good human is. And these go right along with it. They're just really great basic guidelines. So what are the Yamas and Niyamas? They're literally a way of living. And I'm just going through and reading some of my highlights and kind of elaborating on those. I encourage you to grab this book though. It's so easy to read, and you really will you'll pull something away from it, if not a lot. So yoga is designed to bring you more and more awareness of not only your body, but also your thoughts, right? So these Yamas and Niyamas will facilitate you taking ownership of your own life and directing that towards whatever the fulfillment is that you're seeking. So the first 5 jewels, we call them jewels, are the Yamas. And these are restraints. So that's what Yamas translates to in Sanskrit. They include non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and non-possessiveness. A lot of non-stuff. And then the last 5 jewels, so there's 10 altogether, 5 yamas, 5 niyamas. So the 5 niyamas are observances or things that you want to include in your life. And those are purity, contentment, self-discipline, self-study, and surrender. So just going to do like a brief overview of each of those 10 jewels in this video, and then we'll jump into each one more in depth in subsequent videos. So non-violence, and I call them videos, is that I don't even know. Okay, I'm not really with it technologically. Non-violence, oh, falling leaf. So basically they're saying you can do whatever you want as long as it's not causing harm to anyone or anything. So number 1 rule is do no harm. And that's what they say, I think, in the medical profession too. Like that's number 1. I know for counselors, you know, number 1, do no harm. Non-violence. Truthfulness is the second jewel. And really truthfulness and non-violence go hand in hand. And they do kind of build on each other, these yamas and niyamas. So first of all, non-violence. You never want to harm anyone or anything. And I have a confession, and I feel quite ashamed, but I knew it was time for me to reread this book because I had this book on my nightstand and there was a huge cockroach. I'm talking about like big cockroach. Came out of nowhere. Like we don't have cockroaches, I didn't think. We have spiders because we live in the woods, but anyway, I used this book and squished it. And I don't usually kill bugs, but I could not have slept if that guy was in the room. So I just sent him to a new address in the universe. And anyway, I was like, okay, I guess I need to reread this book because that was definitely violent. So that's my story about nonviolence. And then we've got, so truthfulness is this building on top of that. So these really they're like this beautiful dance that goes together. When they're dancing perfectly, they create a spectacular sight. Truthfulness always bows to nonviolence. So if the truth is going to harm someone, you first want to do no harm. Okay, and we'll talk more about these in each of the following videos, but non-stealing is the third one. So a lot of times we look outward for satisfaction. Just as humans, it's what we do. We steal from the earth. We steal from other people. We steal from ourselves. We steal from our own opportunity to grow ourselves into the person who has the right to have the life they want. So we're working towards nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing. Here we go into non-excess. So the fourth jewel. And some people have interpreted non-excess as celibacy or abstinence. It's pretty extreme. Certainly not what I interpret it as. But its literal meaning is walking with God, which is pretty cool. And whatever you believe about the divine, this is just implying like an awareness of sacredness in everything that we do. And it's really like, for me, it's attentiveness to the present moment, which is something I'm kind of like, I'm not going to use the term ADD lightly, but I certainly have tendencies to be kind of scattered, and it's difficult for me to focus sometimes. So attentiveness to each moment is a practice for me, and it moves us into holiness, because if you think about it, there's no other moment than right now, and there's no moment that's more holy or more eternal than right now, which is kind of mind-blowing and awesome that we get to participate in. Living within the limits of enough, so not wanting the next minute, not wishing for like what's coming next, but like being right here even if it's difficult. So if we're practicing non-stealing, which was the third one, we're already primed up for non-excess. So we've got non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and now the fifth one, the last yama, non-possessiveness. So this one liberates us from greed. We tend to cling to people and material objects, which ends up weighing us down, right? Makes life heavy and disappointing as we walk through. And when we practice letting go, we're able to expand and enjoy more. So those are the 5 yamas. One more time: non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, and non-possessiveness. So now, once you get those going, you have more space to breathe in life. She says, we need less than we previously thought. We're having more fun. Creates like an inner Sabbath for us, some space to rest and relax. And then you're able to bring in the niyamas, the observances. You've got this extra space when you let go of all that other stuff and you shift your focus towards purity. It's the 6th jewel. It's an invitation to cleanse ourselves, our bodies, our attitudes, our actions. We are invited to purify how we relate to what is uppermost in the moment. So it is the quality of being aligned in our relationship with others, with the task at hand, and with ourselves. So being pure, again, in the moment, similar to what we were saying with non-excess. Live within the limits of enough, like staying right here and being pure with this moment, with what's happening right now. And that's really fun to practice with my kids. They are just inherently pure children, and when you can get down and let go of all your to-do lists and all of the things that you think the day wants from you, and just like sit and be with them, it is such a pure moment. And when you can look in their eyes or just like focus in on playing one little thing with them, it's beautiful. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it's kind of like a little taste of purity, I feel like. If you're able to hang out with kids, if you don't have young kids, Like if you have grandkids, or like if you know a mom who might need a break, it would be a huge blessing to her if you wanted to hang out with them. But also a huge blessing to you, because kids teach us so much and their energy is so youthful and pure, and they really help us to be more awake and aware. So purity. Contentment is the seventh jewel. It's the second of the niyamas. Something that you can't really seek. It's just kind of comes to you. It can only be found in acceptance and appreciation of what is in the moment. It kind of has to find us. You just leave what is alone, and contentment finds you. You don't always want to like change what is. Self-discipline is the eighth jewel. So we've got purity, contentment, now self-discipline, which literally means heat. It's anything which impacts us to change, and change makes us prepared for our own greatness. So I think everybody kind of knows what self-discipline is, but sometimes self-discipline gets difficult when life gets challenging. It's hard, especially, I mean, for me, I only know my own experience, and I'm great at starting self-discipline or like making a plan to be disciplined. Let's just talk about like exercising, or like food plan, or even like I'm gonna wake up every morning, like setting my alarm to meditate for 20 minutes before the kids wake up. Self-discipline's hard, and I'm really good at like starting it, but not always so good at carrying it out. So hopefully we'll get some reminders on the benefits of that as we go through. Okay, so purity, contentment, self-discipline. Now we're on the ninth one, the ninth jewel, the fourth of the niyamas, just self-study, knowing yourself. Looking at the stories that we're telling ourselves in our thoughts. We're telling ourselves about ourselves, who we are, and realizing that the stories that we tell ourselves are creating our reality. So you have the power with your thoughts. Our thoughts are so powerful. Our words are so powerful. We are creating our own experience and our own reality. Words have the power of creation. I can keep going on that, but we'll save it for another video. The final one is surrender, the 10th jewel. Just going with the flow. I love child's pose for surrender. I love to start my classes with child's pose, my asana classes, just because you let go of everything else and you have like a clean slate and you're ready to be filled up, enjoying the ride and taking in the view. That's what it's all about, just enjoying the ride, feeling good. And these jewels will help to facilitate that. So I hope that you will join me on this little journey, this little part of the Nap Time series. Next, we'll talk about ahimsa. I'm going to go ahead and jump into that video, but I will stop this one here in case you need to take a break. So yeah, ahimsa, nonviolence, coming right up. Thanks for joining me. Namaste.